child can look completely fine on the outside, laugh with friends, get good grades, play sports, smile in family photos, and still be fighting a battle nobody can see. Here is the frightening part. Many parents don't realize something is wrong until the situation becomes a crisis. And by then, the warning signs have often been there for months, sometimes years. Today, we're talking about the child mental health crisis that nobody wants to discuss honestly, and what pediatric psychiatrists are seeing behind closed doors. Let's start with a question. If your child broke their arm tomorrow, would you wait 6 months before getting help? Of course not. You'd rush to a doctor immediately. But when a child develops anxiety, depression, panic attacks, or dangerous emotional struggles, many families wait. Not because they don't care, because they don't recognize the symptoms, or they hope the problem will disappear on its own. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Mental health problems don't always announce themselves dramatically. Sometimes they look like irritability. Sometimes they look like laziness. Sometimes they look like poor grades. Sometimes they look like a teenager who suddenly spends all day alone. And because these signs seem ordinary, they often get ignored. The result, many children spend months or years suffering silently while adults focus on the behavior instead of the cause. And that is exactly why pediatric psychiatry has become one of the most important and misunderstood fields in medicine today. Imagine a 13-year-old girl, let's call her Emma. From the outside, Emma looked successful. Straight A student, great athlete, popular among classmates, the kind of child every parent hopes to have. But something was changing slowly, almost invisibly. She stopped sleeping well. She worried constantly. She became terrified of making mistakes. A single bad grade could ruin her entire week. Every small setback felt like a disaster. Her parents thought she was simply driven. Teachers praised her perfectionism. Friends admired her achievements. Nobody saw the anxiety consuming her from the inside. Months passed. Then one morning she couldn't get out of bed. Not because she was tired. Because she was overwhelmed. Eventually she was evaluated by a mental health professional. The diagnosis: severe anxiety disorder. Not weakness, not attention-seeking, not overreacting. A real medical condition affecting how her brain processed stress and fear. Stories like Emma's happen every day. Not just in one city, not just in one school, everywhere. And that is what makes this issue so important. The children who need help most often don't look like the children people expect. Here is what many people don't realize. Mental health disorders are among the most common health conditions affecting children and adolescents. Yet, they remain some of the least understood. Why? Because people still view mental health differently from physical health. Nobody blames a child for having asthma. Nobody accuses a child of being dramatic because they have diabetes. But when emotional symptoms appear, the conversation changes. People start looking for character flaws, bad parenting, weakness, lack of discipline. The reality is far more complicated. Pediatric psychiatrists routinely evaluate children dealing with depression, anxiety disorders, ADHD, obsessive-compulsive disorder, eating disorders, trauma-related conditions, and other psychiatric illnesses. These conditions can affect every aspect of life: school performance, relationships, self-esteem, physical health, future opportunities, and in severe cases, safety itself. What makes the situation even more challenging is that children often struggle to explain what they're experiencing. Adults can usually say, "I am feeling anxious." Children often cannot. Instead, they show their distress through behavior, and behavior is easy to misunderstand. One of the biggest mistakes people make is looking for a single cause. There isn't one. Mental health disorders develop through a complex interaction of factors. Genetics can play a role. Brain chemistry can play a role. Family environment matters. Life experiences matter. Trauma matters. Chronic stress matters. Social relationships matter. Everything interacts together. Now let's address something controversial. Many people want a simple explanation. Some blame social media for everything. Others blame schools. Others blame parents. Reality isn't that simple. Technology may contribute to mental health struggles in some children, particularly when it leads to sleep deprivation, cyberbullying, social comparison, or constant exposure to unrealistic expectations. But technology alone doesn't explain the entire crisis. Neither does parenting. In fact, many loving, attentive, responsible parents have children who develop psychiatric disorders. Mental illness is not proof of parental failure. That message needs to be repeated. Because guilt prevents many families from seeking help. And guilt doesn't help children recover. Another factor that often gets overlooked is pressure. Children today face enormous expectations: academic expectations, social expectations, athletic expectations, future career expectations. Many feel like they are constantly being evaluated, constantly being compared, constantly trying to keep up. For some children, that pressure becomes overwhelming, especially when combined with biological vulnerabilities that increase the risk of anxiety or depression. And here is something nobody talks about enough. Children don't need to experience a major tragedy to struggle emotionally. Sometimes the problem develops gradually. 1,000 small stresses, 1,000 small worries, building over time until the child simply can't carry the weight anymore. Think about this. If a child had a fever for 3 months, you would be concerned. Very concerned. You wouldn't tell them to ignore it. You wouldn't punish them for it. You wouldn't accuse them of being lazy. Yet emotional symptoms are often treated differently. And that is where many families accidentally make the situation worse. Not because they don't love their child, but because they misunderstand what they're seeing. And misunderstanding delays help. So what should parents actually do? First, pay attention to patterns. Every child has bad days. Mental health concerns usually last longer. They affect daily functioning. Look for persistent changes in mood, persistent withdrawal, persistent irritability, persistent anxiety, persistent changes in sleep or appetite. Second, listen carefully. Many children give clues long before a crisis develops. The problem is that adults are often busy searching for solutions before fully understanding the problem. Sometimes children don't need immediate advice. They need someone willing to listen. Third, create emotional safety. Children should know they can talk about difficult emotions without being judged or dismissed. That doesn't mean agreeing with every feeling. It means acknowledging that the feeling exists. Fourth, don't wait for perfection. Many families postpone seeking help because they hope things will improve naturally. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. Early evaluation can provide clarity. And clarity is powerful. Finally, understand that treatment isn't one size fits all. Some children benefit from therapy. Some benefit from behavioral interventions. Some benefit from family support strategies. Some may require medication under professional supervision. The goal isn't simply reducing symptoms. The goal is helping children build healthy, functional, meaningful lives. But here is the part that surprises many people. The biggest danger isn't always severe mental illness. Sometimes it is the assumption that everything is fine. Because the children who hide their pain the best are often the hardest to identify. Let's be brutally honest. Many adults still carry outdated beliefs about mental health. They assume struggling children simply need more discipline, more toughness, more motivation. But pediatric psychiatrists see a different reality every day. Children aren't becoming weaker. They're becoming more willing to express struggles that previous generations often hid. That is an important distinction. Recognizing emotional pain is not weakness. Seeking help is not weakness. Receiving treatment is not weakness. Ignoring a problem doesn't make it disappear. It usually makes it bigger. Another misconception is that psychiatric diagnoses permanently define a child. They don't. A diagnosis is a tool. It is information. It is a starting point for understanding what a child is experiencing. Nothing more. Nothing less. Children are not diagnoses. They are human beings. Complex. Unique, capable of growth. Capable of recovery, capable of remarkable resilience. And that is exactly why early intervention matters so much. The earlier problems are identified, the greater the opportunity to help. Now for the hopeful truth. The story does not end with a diagnosis. In many cases, it is where improvement begins. Children's brains are incredibly adaptable. Skills can be learned. Confidence can be rebuilt. Healthy coping strategies can be developed. Families can strengthen communication. Relationships can heal. Lives can change dramatically. A child who struggles today is not automatically destined to struggle forever. The future is not written yet. And sometimes the most important intervention isn't complicated. Sometimes it is a parent who finally listens, a teacher who notices, a friend who speaks up, or a healthcare professional who asks the right question at the right time. Small actions can create life-changing outcomes. If this video helped you understand children's mental health in a new way, make sure to subscribe. We're creating evidence-based health content designed to cut through myths and reveal what people need to know, and I'd like to hear from you. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing children's mental health today? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might help someone else who is struggling. And, if you want to learn more about anxiety, ADHD, depression, and the warning signs parents often miss, check out the next video on your screen. Disclaimer: this content is for educational purposes only, and is not intended to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health emergency, contact a qualified healthcare professional or emergency services immediately.